Is it possible to heat an entire greenhouse with just this one singular candle? We're gonna find out. Hey guys, welcome back to the Citystead. Today I'm doing my first experiment on what I can do to heat this greenhouse at night to keep it above freezing, because it does get a little bit colder than what I would expect it to do. Now, I have a few things here that are gonna help. I got these. Now, what are these? These are little candles left over from our wedding. When we got married, we bought a bunch of candles to take to our wedding to put on the tables and all that and whatnot. And we have quite a few left over. So we're gonna try to use these in the experiment. And we also have this guy right here in case those do not work. We have a different kind of candle. It's a little bit bigger. And we also have this apple. What does this have to do with heating the greenhouse? Nothing, I'm just hungry. Honey crisp. It's probably the best apple ever. And we also have this guy. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck is that going to do? Well, if you've seen any YouTube videos, you've probably seen the old YouTube video about the pot with the candle underneath it. We're talking radiant heat. Can I use this candle and this pot to create enough radiant heat to keep this greenhouse warm enough at night? This is going to be fun. Well, we're going to try to put this to the test. And we're going to see, as one of my favorite YouTubers of all time would say,
hey everybody, it's Bunny and it's everybody's favorite day of the week. The day of the week when we ask ourselves, does this thing really work?
Yeah, we're going to find out if this will actually put any kind of heat out. Now I'm going to start it kind of later in the day so that it will hold until the night hopefully and, you know, do the radiant heat throughout the night. So we might have to come back out here with lights and stuff later, but this is going to be the first experiment in how to heat the greenhouse. Now, I don't necessarily think this is a very cost-effective way to heat the greenhouse, as you would have to keep replacing these little candles. I don't know how long it's going to burn. It could be once a day, it could be a couple times a day. Obviously, buying a bunch of candles and burning a bunch of candles to keep your greenhouse warm is not an ideal thing to do. But it's going to be an experiment we're going to try to see if it actually do anything. Because I'm just interested in whether or not knowing that this clay pot will absorb heat and then let it out slowly over time. That seems like a really neat experiment to try, and that's what I really want to do. So this is going to be our first experiment. And let me take you inside the greenhouse and we'll get working on it. Alright, so we have everything set up in here. We have a clay pot. We have a lighter, because we got to light the candles that are underneath the clay pot. 2 little candles. So I think the idea behind this is that these candles will slowly burn, because what we're doing is kind of doing a rocket stove type setup. We're covering them, limiting a little bit of the oxygen that they can actually get to burn slower. And as they burn, they'll heat up this pot. And this pot is supposed to retain some heat. And usually what I see them do is put a bolt through the top with washers on it to seal that hole. Well, I'm just going to try this. I'm going to put this clay bottom on top of the hole. Now, what I'm thinking is if heat rises and heats up the clay pot, why wouldn't it heat up the top here also? So I would have more surface area that's warm to give off that radiant heat, which is what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to make some sort of radiant heat so that as this thing warms up, the heat will slowly dissipate out and keep this thing warm for an amount of time. I'm not sure what that is or how long it could possibly last. I'm kind of skeptical if this thing could actually heat this size of greenhouse with the little gaps I have. My door's got a little bit of a gap in it, and so does my window in the back, my vent. Now, I'm not really planning on growing a lot in the winter in this greenhouse. It's really more for an extension of my seasons, to be able to plant something in here in the fall and have it last into, you know, December-ish maybe. So I didn't get there this year. I didn't plant anything in here. I still worked on it, had a lot of other stuff going on. So next year, for sure, we're going to plant stuff in here when we do our fall plantings. So we'll have a lot of greens throughout some of the winter. And then I'm going to start seeds real early in here. And that's going to help us get our season kick-started, which that's the biggest goal of this entire greenhouse. But while we have it, and some stuff, we're going to go ahead and mess around with what we can accomplish with it. And this is going to be a cool thing to try out, is different methods of heating this thing. So this is my favorite that I've been seeing on the internet. And I see it a bunch of times, and people are like, they heat my house with it, you know, and I'm like, really? So we're going to give it a try. First we got to do is light our little candles. We're already failing. Hold on. It's all about the tongue. You gotta have the tongue out a little bit while you concentrate. It really helps things go move along. Alright. So we lit these two smaller candles. Let me bring it down a little bit lower. There you go. Beautiful little candlelight mood we're having here. I feel like perhaps we should talk about a relationship while we're doing this. Alright. Clay pot over top. Now I'm going to peek in the hole here and see whether or not we still have flames. Which we do, so we're pretty good. And I can actually feel a little bit of that heat already coming out the top here. It's pretty warm right here, so that's kind of surprising already that I feel a little bit of the hot air coming out of here. So now I'm going to put the top on. Now what I'm hoping is that we're really harnessing all that heat now that those little candles are putting off. So I don't know how long those little candles are going to burn. They're really about this tall. So we got an inch, maybe an inch and a quarter of candle height. I'm going to go back inside. We're going to come back out in like an hour. And it's about 4 o'clock right now. So at 5 we'll come back out and we'll check on this. And we're going to do a little touch test because I don't have a gun to check the heat on it. So I'm just going to have to touch it with the back of my hand and see if it's actually warm or if it's still cold. And then we have to check to see if the candles are actually still burning in an hour's time. And while we're thinking about that, let me show you the thermostat, because I have the thermostats out here for what the greenhouse is and what the inside of that little greenhouse is. So let's take a look at those real quick. Alright, so here it is. Here's our little thermostats that we have. Now we got the two sensors out here. One's just sitting in the greenhouse and the other is sitting in the double greenhouse. And I've marked them. This is our double greenhouse. This is our greenhouse. Whoop, that way. So the greenhouse right now is 38 degrees. We're going to have to ignore the indoor temperature because I had these in my pocket when I was out here working. So this one's slightly warmer, being that it was closer to my body than this one was. But when I was in the house earlier today, they were the same, both reading 69 degrees, which is what we keep our house at. And I was surprised watching throughout the day the temperature difference of the greenhouse, which is 38 degrees right now, which I would say is pretty accurate. It's slightly above warm in here. I couldn't take my jacket off and feel comfortable. But inside the double greenhouse, it says it's 47, which, just looking at it over here, let me bring it down here and show you, huh? Got a lot of condensation in there. And I bet, yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to see, just to put your hand in there and see if there's warmer. But there's a lot more condensation buildup in there than there is in the main greenhouse. Now it is smaller, you know, it's easier to build up that condensation. But I'm going to say that these are probably pretty accurate. And this isn't too far off, 7, 8, 9 degrees difference. So yesterday I said if it's 30, you know, we're about 3 or 4 degrees warmer in the greenhouse than outside. And I was expecting about 3 or 4 more degrees for inside the double greenhouse. So we're actually pretty close to that. I got a feeling this isn't exactly 47. It's probably closer to 43, 44. But I know that they're accurate because they've been accurate inside the whole time. And you can see outside temperatures are coming right back closer to each other. So it's dropping down. It's going to be back to what this one is right now. It's 60. But yeah, this is the test. So we got that going now. We're going to see with these whether or not the greenhouse gets any warmer. And if the greenhouse does get warmer, we're going to see if it affects the double greenhouse temperature. Now, I don't know what that's going to do. If we're heating the greenhouse, is it going to heat the double greenhouse? Or is it only going to keep it the same? Because it's going to be temperature-wise. Like if it gives us 10 degrees in here, I don't see it translating to an extra 10 degrees in the double greenhouse. What I do see it doing is evening them out so that they are the same temperature between the two of them. That's kind of what my guess is what would happen. So if this thing does give off any kind of heat, it's just going to make these so they're both the same temperature. But if we can get that above freezing, which is kind of what we're really going for, then we're fine. And somebody asked about the safety precautions. Aren't you worried about safety? Obviously putting like a heat lamp out here, it can be dangerous. Heat lamps are dangerous. So I'm definitely taking some precaution in my ideas of what I'm thinking of using as methods to heat this thing. And you kind of saw the setup of how I was setting this up. And I do have it on a patio block. I got all stone around it. So there's no paper or anything right here. I think this is a pretty safe setup to make sure that we don't have any incidental accidents happen and we burn the greenhouse down, which we definitely don't want to do. So that doesn't happen. But I think this is going to work out and be a very safe method for testing out this theory of the radiant heat. So I'm going to... You know, it's weird. I actually feel some heat on this clay pot. I mean, that's kind of interesting. All right. Well, those candles are burning. We know what we're at. 38 and 46 now. So we'll keep that. We'll do another check in about an hour's time and see where we're at then. All right, can you guys see me? It's kind of spooky out here. See if I can hold this light a little better. Ooh, there we go. All right, so it's 5:30. It's been an hour and a half since I came out here to check on these. A little longer than I wanted to do, and it got really dark quick on us because that's just the time of year it is. So I can tell that there's some light coming out from under there. So one of them at least is still lit. Let's check our temperatures. I actually wrote them out on this nice little chart. Let's see if I can show you. All right, so right now outside it's 32. It's only dropped 2 degrees since earlier when I first put these out here. And the greenhouse temp dropped 2 degrees, so it's holding about what it normally does. And the double greenhouse went all the way down from 47 to 39. So it's gotten really low, but it is still 7 degrees warmer than it is outside. Now I'm going to do a little touch test on this radiant heater to see if it's actually putting any heat out. All right, a little bit of lighting going on in here. Okay. So both candles are still lit. The pot is quite warm. least the top. Yeah, the sides are a little bit warm, so is the top. It's warm, but it's not like radiating heat out here. I don't feel anything closer, like any warmer being right next to this thing than I do 5 feet away from it. So I'm not really sure this is doing a whole lot. Not as much as what people make it out that it could do. At least not out here in these conditions. So maybe because there's no insulation, there's only a thin layer of plastic, maybe it just doesn't do as much as what it would do inside a house or a car or something like that. But it is warm. The whole pot is warm. So I think I'm going to let it burn a little bit longer and see how much more it does. So I can't really see the candle. The candles have been pretty close to the end. I can't imagine them really burning a whole lot longer. But we're going to keep it going, and we'll do another checkup later when it's even darker and even harder to see me. So, come back later. Ooh, boo! Man, it's like Blair Witch in here. Alright, we're back up here for our third checkup of the night. It's 7:30 now, so it's been a couple more hours since the last time we came out here and looked. And I'm already seeing that this is not going to be any kind of good way to heat this greenhouse. So, alright, so I got my chart. I'm checking it. We still have both candles lit. So they've been burning now 3.5 hours, which is pretty good. The temperature has really plummeted. It's now 26 degrees outside. So it's really getting cold. The greenhouse temp, according to the thermostat that we have inside, or the thermometer, it's 29, so it's getting below freezing. So it's not doing what we need it to do. The double greenhouse is still retaining some heat, though. So that's a really good sign. It's at 35 right now. And it was pretty warm earlier in the day, too. So I'm pretty excited about that. I mean, at least I know that we're getting later into the day here. And that is retaining some heat a little bit more than the regular greenhouse is. So the double greenhouse effect does seem to be helping and doing what we kind of want it to do, which is be warmer than what the normal greenhouse is. So we're stages of warmness. I almost wonder if I should put a bucket over that, like the clear plastic bin, and try a triple greenhouse to see what that would do. Since this is all experimenting anyways, I might actually do that. Maybe not this week, but maybe next week. And we'll just keep going from there. But we got some more experiments we're going to try with the heating of the greenhouse. This clay pot thing, I think it's a bust. I don't think it was ever going to work. Whoever told, put videos out that it could heat a house or a room, I think they're full of it. It's warm to the touch, but it's not like radiating any kind of heat. And maybe I am missing because I don't have a bolt in the top of it, and maybe because I have just the top on it. But the top is retaining heat. It feels warm, but it's not radiating that heat. So maybe the bolt is the key and I'm not doing it right. I'm not sure. But as I walk out to the greenhouse, it is kind of cool when you look over and you just see this little light down here. Just kind of going to town. So, I got the flashlight. It's so dark. I got the flashlight out here. You can't see me now. So that thing is warm, but it's not really generating a heat source inside of here, even this late at night with it. So we're just going to let it burn out and move this stuff out of here, and we will get on to test number 2 probably next weekend. So I think test number 2 is going to be a little bit better, possibly. I'm not 100% sure. I think most of these things that I've found that could possibly work are not going to be nighttime solutions. They're more like they'll really help during the day. Now it's up to me about building some of this thing that it can retain some of that heat that it gets pumped into during the day. So probably a double layer or maybe some bubble wrap in here. Something like that would be really good. I don't know if we're going to have a chance to do it this year or not, but that's probably a step to try to do maybe over the summer or something to get this to be a little more insulated to retain some of that heat that we can try to pump into here. So that's it for our first experiment, guys. Didn't quite work very well, so what can you do? We'll try another one. Alright, we're out here. Remember, if you like the videos, give us those thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, it helps us a bunch, and check out some other videos. I'll post them right here. And until next time, see you guys later. I'm out of here.